Hello and welcome to the second edition, the second day of Small Business Daily. I'm Randy Kirk. I'm your host, and we'll be talking about ways to improve your business, ways to help you become even more professional in the way that you run your business. And the real goal is to help you bring more money home to your family and to make business just that much more enjoyable to be a part of. We have started yesterday. It was our very first day, and we're talking about selling this week because I want to be remembered for one thing. Nothing happens until something is sold. So just if you hear me say that a few times, you'll understand that that's really, really important to me. It doesn't matter how good the rest of your business is. It doesn't matter how good your products or your storefront or anything else are. If you don't have somebody selling, it's unlikely that you're going to be very successful. So we talked about yesterday was what is a professional salesperson? How does that differ from a run-of-the-mill salesperson? And what it basically boils down to is professional salespeople care about the prospect that's in front of them. They care about their customers. They care about providing them great goods and services. But there's way more to it than that, but that's kind of the foundational principle. And we wanted to differentiate that from the typical person's view of a salesperson might be that they're pushy, they're trying to jam something down your throat, they're just trying to get the commission. Well, not professional salespeople. Professional salespeople care about the client first, the prospect, and are very, very good at understanding how to meet the needs of that prospect. So that's what we talked about yesterday. If you happen to miss yesterday's edition, it's certainly available for you to go and look, and I highly recommend that you go there. And yesterday, we did recommend the book, Think and Grow Rich. Down in the description, you'll see there's a link for that. It is the all-time #1 best-selling book on sales and motivation, and I highly recommend you read it. Okay, today, we're going to move to the next step about selling. We're going to talk about enthusiasm. I love the concept of enthusiasm. And I hope you're going to understand that by the time we get done. But as we get into that, would you please do me a couple of favors? Number one, if you think this content is useful, if you think that learning how to be enthusiastic as a salesperson, learning how to become a better salesperson, getting to become a professional salesperson as opposed to just a sales clerk, could benefit your business, would you please just push the like button? If you could just hit that like button, because that's going to help my algorithm. And only about 30% of people push the like button, even when they like the content. So could you be one of the 30% and just give that a click? Number two, if you think that this content will help you long-term, as we teach you about enthusiasm and find the need and how to close and things of this nature, if you think that's going to be helpful to you, then please subscribe. That way you're a subscriber to the channel and you'll have an easier way to get into the content in the future. And then to really make it easy on you, if you'd like to be notified, you might forget. You might, oh my gosh, it's been 3 days. This is a daily show and I forgot to look Randy up. Okay, just push notify and that way you'll get a notification and that'll help you to remember to join us each day. Okay, so let's get into the meat, okay? Enthusiasm. Here is the key phrase. This is what I want you to keep in your mind. I want you to think about this. I want you to cogitate. I want you to, whatever method you use for really getting it to drill deep down inside your brain. And that is, if you aren't enthusiastic about yourself and your skill sets and your capabilities, if you're not enthusiastic about the company that you own or work for, if you're not enthusiastic about the products or services that you sell, then why in the world would you expect your prospect and or customers to be enthusiastic about you, your company, or about your products and services? Does that make sense to you? Do you get that? If you aren't enthusiastic, if you're not enthusiastic about yourself, there's an easy solution. You can start to become better at your skill sets. You can start to become more knowledgeable about your product lines and your service products. You can start to become more expert in your field. If you're not enthusiastic about the company that you own or the company that you work for, fix it. Fix the company that you own. Change the company that you own. go in a new direction, get new products and services. What is it about the company that you're not enthusiastic about? You're the owner, make the changes. If you're not enthusiastic about the company you work for, is it possible that it'll change? Is it your mindset that's the problem, or the company? You may need to go to work someplace else. But if you're not enthusiastic about the company, it's not a good place to work. And finally, if you're not enthusiastic about the product and services and you're the owner, that's certainly available for you to start fixing and to make some effort to fix. If you're not enthusiastic and you're the employee, you're the sales rep, well, you may not be able to do anything about fixing them, but maybe it is your own mindset. Make sure that it's not you that's getting in the way. Lots of salespeople are kind of negative and naysayers about their own products. Don't let that happen to you. Okay, so enthusiasm, that's the first theory. I'm going to say it again because it's so critical. If you're not enthusiastic about yourself and your skill sets, if you're not enthusiastic about the company that you own or work for, and if you're not enthusiastic about the products and services that you sell, then why would your customer, your prospect, be enthusiastic about you, your company, or your products and services? Very clear, very critical issue. So what we're really driving for, what the goal of today's session is, we want you to be passionate. We want you to be not just, well, yeah, I kind of like working here, and yeah, I'm okay with my skill sets. No, we want you to become passionate about who you are. We want you to become passionate about your company. We want you to become passionate about your products. What does that take? Well, number one, it is definitely an attitude issue. So some people just aren't naturally enthusiastic. Well, Randy, if it's not my DNA, how am I going to fix that? Well, you can fix attitudes. And so what I recommend, what I've told my salespeople over the years is, it may come down to reading a lot of the great motivational work that's out there. So there's a whole bunch of authors that you've heard of some of the names probably. Again, Think and Grow Rich is certainly one of them. The Power of Positive Thinking is another great one. We will certainly put that down in the links as well in terms of in the description. You'll get a link to The Power of Positive Thinking. You can read my book, When Friday Isn't Payday. When Friday Isn't Payday has an entire section on motivation and passion and enthusiasm. And so that would be another place that you could go. Plus, in the back of When Friday Isn't Payday, there's an entire list of all of the motivational books that I recommend. The list is long, and I will talk about the list in more detail as we go along. But so motivational speakers, Tony Robbins and others, I'm sure you've heard the names. They've got free YouTube videos. They've got free seminars. Sometimes you'll pay for the seminar. If we ever get over COVID, you can go back to in-person seminars on the weekend. Some of them are weekend long, and you come out all excited and enthusiastic as you come down from the mountaintop and you're ready to kill. Okay. But what we want you to do is get enthusiastic. What is the difference between somebody who's enthusiastic about themselves and about their company and product? Let me tell you a quick story. Well, it's maybe not that quick, but I'll do my best. I was in law school about 100 years ago in West Los Angeles at UCLA. And I had gone to work for this company to pay my bills that was importing padlocks from Germany and selling them to bike shops, hardware stores, locksmiths, etc. And I was acting as a rep. I was a commission rep with, I think, a 15% commission. And I was doing quite well. I was selling a lot of product. Well, the owner of the company, it was a small company, it was just 3 or 4 employees and myself as a rep. The owner of the company came to me one day and he says, Randy, I'd like you to come in and become the sales manager, the regional sales manager. I said, his name was Ferguson. I said, no, Ferg, no. Not really that interested. I'm making enough money. I'm in law school. I don't really have time to be driving 35 miles to the office and working full time. He says, well, okay. So I said no. And a couple of weeks later, he asked me again. I said no again. I just can't do it. The third time, another couple of weeks later, he comes back to me and he says again, would you come in and become the regional sales manager? And I said, I just don't see how I can do it, Ferg. And he says, make a list of what it would take. Now I'm 23, 24 years old. And this guy is saying, make a list of what it would take for for you to come in and become a regional manager. Anyway, I wrote my list, and we negotiated over it, and we finally came to terms, and they were pretty good terms. I've told my friends for years that one of my terms was 5 weeks a year of vacation from year one, and he agreed to that. So, I got pretty much what I wanted. Years later, not even years later, it was probably about a year later, we were out at dinner one night. We were making calls somewhere in the territory, and I said, "Hey, how come you were so insistent? How come you worked so hard to get me to come to work for you?" He says, very simple. He says, "I just wanted to buy your enthusiasm." I hope that doesn't just sound braggadocio. I hope what it sounds like is, oh my gosh, it was that important to this guy. It was that important to get that. He knew that enthusiasm for a salesperson is the difference. It really is the difference maker. In fact, as I've been teaching about selling for the last 35, 40 years, teaching it at national trade shows, teaching it in local meetings, teaching it in my books, I commonly say that, you know what, all the rest of the things we're going to talk about in terms of selling pale in comparison to whether or not you're enthusiastic, pale in comparison to whether or not you're passionate. Now, what other aspects, what other ways can you become more enthusiastic? People are commonly afraid to be public speakers. And what they found over time is the way that you reduce the fear of speaking in public, it's an inverse relationship. The more you know the subject matter, the more confident you are about your presentation, the more confident you are that you're going to be able to present something that people will care about, the less fearful you are being a public speaker. Well, guess what? It's the same thing with selling. If you know your product line backwards, forwards, and inside out, if you know the industry that you're selling backwards, forwards, and inside out, if you know the selling process backwards, forward, in other words, you're an expert. If you become an expert in these things, the more expert you are, the more enthusiastic and passionate you're going to become. So it's common for salespeople, it's common for owners to say, well, I know this much and I don't need to know any, you know what, I'm making 60,000 a year. I'm making 70,000 a year. I know enough to make 60 or 70,000 a year. I guess I'm okay. Well, if 60 or $70,000 a year is enough for you, I'm good. Maybe you don't need the rest of this presentation. Maybe you don't need to, maybe you don't need to like and subscribe and notify, you know. But most of us would like to make more than 60 or 70,000 a year. You've put a lot of money into your small business. You put a lot of time into your small business. You put a lot of heartache into your small business. Sometimes you can't sleep at night because you've got cash flow problems or because an employee is acting up. You've got a lot of energy and time and money invested in this small business. Is $60,000 or $70,000 a year good? Is that enough for all of that energy and all that time and all that money? I don't think so. So if you want to make 100,000, if you want to make 150,000, if you want to make a couple $100,000 a year in small business or as a sales rep, then listen to me carefully. You need to be the expert. Again, I don't want this to sound like bragging. I went to work for this lock company. They were selling padlocks and hasps primarily. You know, padlocks. You see them everywhere. And hasps, the thing you lock, you know. I would go into locksmith shops to sell locks to these locksmiths. But what I was really going into was to learn about the locks. I would go in, and if it was a little slow in the shop, I would say, hey, I'm new at this. I don't know what I'm doing. Is there any way you can help me? Could you talk to me about how to pick locks? Can you talk to me a little bit more about what makes it one padlock better than another padlock? Why does Master sell better than American? You know, what is it? What do you mean the shackle is case hardened? What does that mean? Why is this lock easier to pick than this lock? And I would just learn from these people. I would learn and learn and learn. Well, do you know that within 1 year of me entering the lock business, I was writing articles for the leading trade publication, Locksmith Ledger. Well, I was writing about my niche. I was writing about padlocks. I was writing about bicycle locks. I was writing about how to use a lock on a mini storage warehouse. These were niches that I was in. So I became an expert in these small areas. When I walk into a client, it doesn't take them any time at all, or a prospect, it doesn't take them any time at all to see that I'm expert. Well, that's certainly going to build my confidence. That's certainly going to make me more passionate and enthusiastic if everybody recognizes me as an expert in the niche that I'm talking about. So number one, become an expert on your product line. Okay. Number two, become an expert about the industry you're trying to sell. So again, I go back to the locksmith. Well, once I became an expert in terms of what my product was in that industry, at the locksmith level, I was able to walk into the wholesale distributor. And when I walked into the buyer at the wholesale distributor, he could see immediately, regardless of the fact that I was a 24-year-old pimple-faced kid, he could see that I knew what I was talking about. He could see I was an expert. He could tell I was an expert in the industry. I had walked into locksmith shops and I knew how they sold and how they displayed and what their margins were supposed to be. I knew about his business, and he could see that immediately, regardless of my age or my appearance. So become an expert in the industries that you're trying to sell. How long does it take? I would say on average, let's say if I was now that locksmith expert and padlock expert, but now I want to sell hardware stores, I would probably have to call on 20 hardware stores and spend a half an hour with each hardware store. I'd want to read maybe 2 or 3 months of Hardware Age, or I don't know what, it's been a long time. I don't know if that's still the name of the magazine. I would maybe want to attend a hardware trade show or two. As I did that, and I haven't really spent that much time, have I? As I'm spending that little bit of time, I'm becoming more and more expert in that industry. And then finally, become an expert in selling. There is so much material. There are literally hundreds of selling books on the market. I'm going to just speculate that there are thousands of YouTube videos on how to become better at selling. I'm going to speculate that once we open back up again, there will be weekend seminars and webinars available to you all the time to go and become a better salesperson. So you want to become an expert salesperson. Now, what does this all boil down to? We're talking back to enthusiasm again. If you are an expert at selling, if you just really know what you're doing when it comes to selling, finding the need, closing, trial close, how to deal with objections, all the kinds of things we'll talk about tomorrow and the next day and the next day. If you're an expert in these areas, then you're going to feel more confident and you're going to be more enthusiastic about going out and having that conversation with the prospect. If you know about the product and you know about the industry that you're selling, you're going to be way more confident and enthusiastic about going out and selling. And if you're the owner, as you dig more deeply into these industries and you dig more deeply into the products, you may decide, I need better products. I need better packaging. I need better pricing. I need better collateral material when my salespeople walk in or I walk in. I need a better way to tell the story. I need a better general idea that I'm going to talk to the client about in terms of my unique selling proposition. And that's true for services, it's true for products, it doesn't matter. So when you're in the field and you're out doing the prospecting and you're an expert, you're also going to get the feedback loop is going to work better and you're going to know better whether or not you need to make some changes and up your game so that your company can do better. In fact, I'm going to leave you this one idea. Do you go to trade shows? Do you go to something like a trade show? I love trade shows. I've done about, 250 or 300 trade shows in my life. I don't go there to sell. I love to sell and I want to sell and I hope I get orders. I don't even go there really to meet my clients or my prospects. What I go to the trade show to do is to listen to the feedback when people come into the booth and they see the new products or they see the new services. I get the feedback. The feedback is what I live on to make decisions about how I'm going to change it and improve my products or come out with new product lines. I've learned so much at trade shows that have advanced my companies over the years. Okay, enough for today. The links to the books I've recommended are down below. I highly recommend you get When Friday Isn't Payday. Great book. Great. I wrote it, but the book has a great section. That's what I meant to say. It has a great section on selling, and it also has a bibliography in the back that has a list of some of the great sales and motivational books that are out there. I want to say one more time, if you wouldn't mind liking, if you liked what you heard, if you wouldn't mind also subscribing so that you can find me easily again for tomorrow's session. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about finding the need and filling it. That's going to be our subject matter tomorrow. Critical part of selling. It's really the professional part, finding the need, listening and finding the need. That's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. And then you might want to put the notify button, because then you'll be notified, be reminded to come tomorrow. And if you didn't hear yesterday's, you might want to go back and pick up the beginning session yesterday. We're going to be doing this every day. And that's why we call it Small Business Daily. And eventually we'll be getting onto lots of other subjects like accounting and like hiring and firing and like, startups, turnarounds. We'll be talking about so many different subjects, but right now we're starting out where? Do you remember? Oh, the questions. What comments could you leave me today? That's one more thing. Comments. The comments I'd like to hear from you today are you enthusiastic? Is that your normal modus operandi in life? Are you generally and genuinely enthusiastic and passionate about things? So just let me know, scale of 1 to 5, is that who you are normally? If you're not very enthusiastic or passionate, would you like to become more passionate and more enthusiastic? Put that in the comments as well. Anything else you'd like to say? Questions you have, put the questions. I'll try to answer all questions as we go along that people leave, and I will respond to all of your comments. So until tomorrow, when we're going to talk about finding the need and filling it, this is Randy Kirk with Small Business Daily.